Hello, and welcome to Queensland Theatre. I'm Lee Lewis, the Artistic Director of this wonderful company, and it is my very great pleasure to talk to you today about our plans for our 2022 season. Come on in. It's a glorious, sunshiny day, and we're standing here on the lands of the Jagera and the Turrbal people. Stories have been told on these lands for tens of thousands of years. And as I talk to you today about the stories we'd like to share next year, we must acknowledge that our First Nations people are our first storytellers, and that the work elders do in preserving the traditions of the world's oldest continuous culture is valuable to all of us as a nation. It is my great privilege to introduce to you the Arts Minister, the Honourable Leanne Enoch.
Thanks, Lee, and can I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we all gather on today and pay my respect to all of our elders, past, present and emerging. Well, I'm delighted to join you today to launch Queensland Theatre's 2022 season. The past 18 months have presented the kind of challenges that many of us have never seen in our lifetimes. This has been especially so for the arts and cultural sector. Perhaps more than ever, Queenslanders have realised the importance of our stories as a source of escape, inspiration and hope, and as a way to understand and unpack the complexities of the world. I'd like to commend the team at Queensland Theatre and the whole arts and cultural sector for the incredible resilience and flexibility you have demonstrated in continuing to bring our stories to life. The launch of the 2022 season signals the next milestone in our gradual recovery from the impacts of COVID-19. While there will continue to be many challenges in the months ahead, Queensland Theatre's 2022 season provides hope that better times are coming. The Queensland Government is a major supporter of Queensland Theatre and our state's creative sector. Since the onset of COVID-19, the Queensland Government has committed more than $79 million worth of measures to support and revitalise the arts and cultural sector, including a $22.5 million Arts and Cultural Recovery Package. I'm so pleased to see Queensland's State Theatre Company continue to present our stories, bring our communities together and support the development of our talented Queensland artists. Congratulations on the launch of the 2022 season.
The last couple of years in the theatre world have been really hard. But what has been great has been the theatre community and the Queensland Theatre family. The family that makes up this company is huge, and we've had a lot of warm and generous support. The federal government support through the Australia Council has been invaluable. Brisbane City Council has been with us every step of the way. But there have also been individuals who've come forward and offered their support at different times. We've had a donor support the building of our digital studio so that we could create more digital content to reach wider audiences around the state. The Tim Fairfax Family Foundation has helped us in the last couple of years to build our youth and education program into one of the most far-reaching and successful programs in the country. There's a group of people that form the Landmark Productions Fund, and they're the people that are helping us to invest in larger shows. We've got a group of people who've come together under the banner of Visionaries who support us in so many ways. RACQ has been an invaluable supporter over so many years. And now what's great is that with all of their support, we're able to build, okay, yes, a pun, we're able to build the next year. 2022 is filled with programs, it's filled with shows, not only here in Brisbane, but out regionally, and hopefully we'll be able to take some of those shows around the country. Thank you for being with us as our donors, our partners, and our friends. You are going to grab a drink, sit back on your couch and listen to what we've got in store for you in 2022. The first play in our 2022 season is a classic. It's a big, bold, electrifying story that is going to draw you in to some spectacular pettiness, to some epic cruelty, and ultimately into a world that shouldn't be funny, but it is. I'm talking, of course, about Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It's domestic, it's heartfelt, it's epic, and it's so wrong. And we're going to love it. It is being directed by the one and only Margaret Harvey.
Hi, my name's Margaret Harvey and I'm the director of Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and we're excited and we are pumped to be bringing this production to Brisbane, to Jagera and Turrbal lands next year, early next year. We're in the midst of rehearsal right now for STCSA here in Adelaide on Ghana lands. A little bit about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. We follow a couple, George and Martha, over the course of an evening. They have 2 invited guests, another married couple, and we hear about, their life that they're living that's full of false illusions. My favourite part of this whole work is in Act 3, where those truths are revealed and all of those false illusions begin to crumble. Albee's intention was to portray these characters and reflect the state of American socio-politics in the early 1960s. So my vision for this work is to set it here in Australia in 2021, 2022, and through these 2 couples reflect the state of Australia as a nation, and the socio-politics that are affecting us here as Australians. I'm excited. We're all excited.
Well, we all love a classic at Queensland Theatre, but what we really love is a great new Australian play. And wow, have we found a great one for you. Every so often, a play comes in the door which is a window on a world we would otherwise not know about. It takes us to a place that we can't travel to, and if the playwright had not chosen to tell the story, it's one that would otherwise go unspoken, untold. Our next play is written by a currently serving member of the Australian Defence Forces. It's a fictional distillation of his experiences as a soldier deployed in Afghanistan and Iraq, and tells the story of a group of Australian soldiers living on a remote base in the Vietgone province in Afghanistan. This is not a play that could be told by a playwright invented from other people's stories. This is a very special work, and we're very proud that it's going to make its world premiere on the Queensland Theatre stage in the Bill Brown Theatre.
G'day, I'm Christopher and I wrote the play, First Casualty. The play is set over 48 hours and it's set at the high point, the high water mark of the Afghan campaign in 2011, when the surge was at its height, when our troop numbers were at their height, and when violence was at its height. The play takes place over 2 days, but in many ways those 2 days echo with the 2 decades of that conflict. The play has been distanced from any real individuals or events, but it is informed by that rich cornucopia of characters who comprise the Australian Army and the extraordinary men and women that I've met over the years. Well, Afghanistan has become so contentious and our conduct there so controversial, so political. I thought it was important to put a human face on the conflict, to tell the story of the soldiers in their own language, and to honour them and their families and the human cost in many ways of the deployment. Well, I think it'll be surprising. I think it'll be confrontational. I think it'll be tough. I hope it'll be funny. It'll be very musical. Music runs through this play like a river. And I hope that it articulates the complexity of that conflict and situates soldiers' actions and decisions in the moral and operational context of their time. That's what I hope audiences will experience.
So, from the other side of the world to the heart of Queensland, the next play in our season is an intimate work from an exciting new voice in Australian playwriting. A finalist in the Queensland Premier's Drama Award in 2018-19, Don't Ask What the Bird Looked Like, is a beautiful, heartwarming story about family and land and reconnection and ghosts. To share more about her beautiful new play, please welcome Hannah Volansky to the Queensland Theatre stage.
I started writing the play in 2017 because I wanted to explore some questions I have about being Aboriginal but having fair skin. I've always wondered whether I'm Aboriginal enough and questioned whether I belong as an Aboriginal person and what that really means. So this was a story that I really wanted to see on stage. The play is about Joan, who is a young, fair-skinned Aboriginal woman who visits her estranged father in a rural outback community. It's her first time going out there, it's her first time on country, she hasn't been raised with culture and she's longing for connection, but she's met with a lot of silence and her father is struggling with his own healing and disconnection from culture. I want the audience to feel very welcomed into this world and these characters and just to really sit there and be with them and to laugh and cry and all the things.
So now we're in Paris. It's 1899 and Sarah Bernhardt is the best actor on the planet. She has built her own theatre. Now there are a lot of debts involved in building theatres and she needs a big play that will sell a lot of tickets and bring in the crowds. So she decides to play Hamlet. Why not? Now it's a scandal, of course, a woman playing Hamlet, but she doesn't let that stop her. And so what we have on stage at Queensland Theatre is the play Bernhardt Hamlet. It's a little bit of a cheat for me as a director. It's killing 5 birds with one stone because it's a little bit of a classic, but I don't have to figure out how to direct Hamlet, which is nice. It also sneaks in a little bit of Cyrano de Bergerac because Sarah Bernhardt was having an affair with the man who wrote Cyrano de Bergerac. Now, of course, he wrote that play with her in mind to play Roxanne, but she's a little bit sick of playing the girlfriend roles, especially when now she's tackled Hamlet. So it's a little bit about how that love affair falls apart. It's a wonderful world to sweep everybody into. It's a play written by Teresa Rebeck, who is a wonderful American playwright, and it's audacious and fast-moving, and it's got a lot of velvet and a lot of great frocks, and it's almost a classic, but not. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to direct it. You know, it's been over 20 years since Queensland Theatre audiences first fell in love with the next work in our 2022 season. That work saw the beginnings of some extraordinary careers in the Australian theatre landscape. We watched talent emerge on the QPAC stage that blew our minds and would go on to actually lead the theatre industry. It was written and directed by someone we all know and love, and it is a real pleasure for us all to have Wesley Enoch back on the Queensland Theatre stage to direct the revival of his musical, The Sunshine Club.
I'm Wesley Enoch. I'm a theatre writer, director and a Quandamooka man from Minjirrabah, Stradbroke Island. So Sunshine Club is about a young man, Frank, who comes back from war and goes, I will not accept the inequity and the prejudice that is in our society. He goes up to Cloudland and is not allowed to go in. And he said, okay, well, we'll set up our own club. What's the opposite to Cloudland? It's where the sun shines. We'll call it the Sunshine Club. And this place kind of is where people come together. And of course, what happens is there are then mixed race relationships form, where people are singing and dancing together. And there's this moment when a love forms and then no one's allowed to let it happen. And that the police are called in. And there's a sense of destruction of the great hope and dreams of the club. And there's a sense of, well, can you end on that sense of destruction of the hope? No. And so the final scene of the play is jumping forward into a time where it's possible to love each other regardless of race. And there's this sense of optimism that returns, that the world has changed enough because of places like the Sunshine Club. What I hope for is that audiences listen to it and understand that there's a relationship that has always been there. It's not like Aboriginal people just popped up in the last 10 years asking to be understood, asking to be recognised. This has been something that's been happening for hundreds of years in this country. And what I really hope for is that when my old aunties sit next to old uncle, whitefella uncle, that they can actually grab their hands at one point and go, that was good, eh? And there's a sense of being connected rather than pulled apart.
So after you've thrilled to the joy of the Sunshine Club, we're going to take you on a journey into a heartfelt and honest family drama about the endless complications of living with someone who you love who has mental illness. The Almighty Sometimes is a heartbreakingly beautifully written work by an award-winning playwright, Kendall Fever.
Hi, my name is Kendall Fever. I'm a playwright and I wrote The Almighty Sometimes. The Almighty Sometimes is about a young woman called Anna who was diagnosed at the age of 8 years old with a range of mood and behavioural disorders. When the play opens, Anna is now 18. She's reached the age of medical consent, and so she decides she wants to know what life would be like without pills and prescriptions. Her mother, Renee, has a very different understanding of what it was like to raise Anna, and Anna's long-term psychiatrist, Vivi, also has her own conflicting stake in Anna's mental health care. Throw in a very new boyfriend, Oliver, and you have 4 people who are all desperately trying to do the right thing by everyone else and not always succeeding. Theatre is one of the best places to have difficult conversations. It is, by its very nature, a place that encourages listening. I also think, despite the serious subject matter of the play, it's actually a really funny play. The play doesn't duck the serious conversations ever. It actually it steps right into the complexity and it actively tussles with it. It looks at the difficulties of diagnosing young people, and it is an open and honest and sometimes quite bracing look at the reality of living with and caring for someone with mental health issues. But this is a play that doesn't ignore joy. It doesn't ignore laughter. It embraces light and silliness and play and magic.
I am so excited to finally be bringing Othello to the Brisbane stage. This was the play that was shut down by COVID. It struggled in 2021 to make it onto the stage. Cross my fingers, it made it onto stage in Cairns, which is where we'd hoped to start the season. But I snuck in to see a run in the rehearsal room in August 21, and Jimmy Barney's performance of Othello was a sight to behold. So it must make it onto the stage. So cross every finger you have that we will see it on stage at Queensland Theatre in Brisbane Festival in 2022.
My name is Jason Klarwein, and this is
Jimmy Barney.
And we are doing Othello by William Shakespeare, but adapted by Jimmy Barney and myself. Jimmy and I were talking about doing a big classic together at some point, and we happened to be sharing a dressing room here at Queensland Theatre, and I said to Jimmy, well, if there's any Shakespeare you want to do, what do you want to do? And Jimmy said Othello.
It'll be amazing how people will connect with this from here. You know, it's very relevant, and it's very Australian, and it's very like just the way we've worked it.
Because Jimmy and I had worked so closely together with his family and with Jimmy's Wagadugum culture, we started to talk about World War II as being a setting for the play.
You know, the gender politics, the race, the cultures blend, battle, mix. You know, it's everything's in there with Shakespeare. It's like this. It's in real life too.
I think ultimately for me the play is sort of a bit of a roller coaster ride for the audience, because it starts as this kind of expansive, amazing sort of world of boats and ships and storms and those sorts of things, and a celebration of culture and two cultures coming together. And there's songs and those sorts of things. And then as the play goes on, it becomes more narrow and more claustrophobic and a bit more like a thriller, a domestic thriller, and then leaning towards horror.
We're going to finish off our year with a wild hip-hop love story. I'm not kidding. It's a beautiful, beautiful play. A wild road trip romance. Yes, there is a motorcycle. Yes, there is a love story between two evacuees from the end of the Vietnam War. They find themselves in an evacuation camp in Arkansas, America, of all places, and they fall in love, and they have to decide whether they're going to try and make a new life in America or try and go back to Vietnam. It's an incredibly fun, hopeful work that is filled with hippies and cowboys and a ninja battle. And I'm sorry, but who doesn't want a ninja battle on the Bill Brown stage as a Christmas present?
Hi there, I'm playwright Vietgone. I am the writer behind the show Vietgone. Vietgone is basically my parents' love story about how they met and fell in love here in America after the fall of Saigon. However, it's written in this completely mischievous, anachronistic kind of way, filled with, humor, surprises, and even a few songs. What I'm most excited for audiences to see when they see Vietgone is it's ultimately a celebration of immigrants and refugee stories, a reminder that all people, regardless of what our circumstances may be, we all want the same things: love, friendship, the chance to laugh, family. I think my most favorite thing when it comes to this show, Vietgone, though it's a play that I wrote to celebrate my family, it's been incredible because it's been produced all over America, and almost every single company that I've seen put it together, they become a family, in and of themselves. All those actors kind of connect and bond in a way that is so gratifying to see. They become, in a lot of ways, the same. They kind of create the same dynamic that I find in my home, one that's very playful, very joyful, full of jokes, and it's always a sight to behold. And I think when that happens, it always translates on stage to make even a better performance.
The launch of any season is always going to be about the plays that we're going to do next year, obviously, but Queensland Theatre is about so much more than just the plays that we see on the Brisbane stage. In 2022, we're going to be reaching out across the state and hopefully, COVID permitting, around the country to find and share great Queensland stories with everybody. In 2022, we're going to be working on the next round of the Queensland Premier's Drama Award. This award calls out to playwrights from around Australia to write plays for Queensland audiences. And we spent a lot of time developing those works and finding the next great play that will be the winner of that award. That play will go on in 2023, but the work will happen in 2022. It's now the richest playwriting prize in the country. It not only guarantees a production in our 2023 season, but Griffith University have come on board as partners to offer playwrights a $30,000 cash prize, which in these COVID times, very necessary. We'll also have every week our young artist ensembles coming into the building. Every week 100 young artists come into our building and create new work. They train, they learn, they create, and I tell you, at 4 o'clock every afternoon is pretty exciting to see these great new artists coming into our building. On top of our ensembles, our youth and education team also builds and produces the Scene Project. Now, the Scene Project goes out across the whole state. We reach out to about 100 schools at the moment around the state. We commission a work that is written specifically for those young people to make their own versions of. Then we make a professional version and tour it around the whole state and bring different schools together to share the work that they've made. It is an unbelievable project that has been made possible by the support of the Tim Fairfax Family Foundation. There's also Theatre Residency Week, which we run in Brisbane and in North Queensland, where students get to come together and work with each other and train and work with some of the state's best teaching artists. One of my favourite times in the year is when we get to read the plays that have been entered in the Young Playwrights Award. Seeing young people with a talent for writing crafting a work that is meant for the stage is really thrilling for me because it gives me great hope for the future of Australian playwriting. I wish there was a way to properly pull back the curtain and reveal the work of a company, to help you see into the commissioning process, to help you see the development processes that are so different for every writer. And we will continue to commission new work from writers around the state, from writers of different backgrounds, from writers with different stories, because the future of Australia is in the complexity and the diversity of story that we have. That's something that we can offer to the whole world, is a rich and different perspective on the issues of the world. It is with great joy that we're able to put together a season for 2022. Of course, we don't know how 22 is going to unfold. Maybe there'll be lockdowns, maybe they won't, maybe we'll be wearing masks, maybe we won't. But what I do know is that every time we get to throw open the doors to the theatre is a win. Every time we get to invite you in to the Bill Brown space or to the Playhouse stage at QPAC, it's a real win for the idea that theatre brings together community. I hope that there are different things that will reach out to different people, because this is a huge and wonderful state with so many great Queensland stories in it, and it's such a privilege to get so many great Queensland stories on this stage. So go away, look online, see what you think, and honestly, if you can't find a story that you really like, write to me and tell me. It's my job, and it's a great job to try and find you stories that you will love. So I love hearing from you, and you know what? Most of all, I love seeing you. So here's to seeing you in the foyer at the Bill Brown Theatre in 2022 for a great season of stories.